So if we were asked, to graph cosine, so like y equals the cosine of x, it's really similar to what we just did for sine of x. So again, we're measuring in angles, so we can go from like 0 degrees to 360 degrees, and we can break this graph up like we did before into little parts. And again, you can break it up even finer as you move along. Well, for cosine of x, again, we need to know how big can cosine be. Well, the largest value of cosine, which is like our x-coordinate, is going to be 1. And the smallest value is going to be at -1. So we want to think about, what are the values of sine and cosine, or what is the value of cosine at these different places? Well, the cosine of 0 is 1. See, this is different than sine because sine starts at 0. Cosine starts at 1. Cosine's already at its max. So at 90 degrees, cosine goes down to 0. At 180 degrees, it goes to -1. At 270 degrees, it's back at 0 again. And at 360, we get back to our max. Now, as we kind of learned that in between, we end up with values that kind of take on things like this. So these represent where we're at a half. You could more finely do this if you drew this out a little more accurately and included all of the angles on the unit circle. But once you know the max and min and you kind of have the general idea of the shape, you can kind of predict what's going to happen as you move along. Now, this looks different than sine. And if you remember, sine went something like this. Now, the real difference between sine and cosine is just that one is actually just shifted. Cosine starts at its max, as opposed to sine starting at 0. But look at when sine is at its max. Here, from that point on, if you look at them, they kind of mirror each other. They are the same function after that point, like if you were to shift them. So this is really, really useful and helpful when we think about performing trigonometry, that they are so related to each other. Now, as far as our amplitude, we look for how far away from the middle of the function is our max or min. Well, this is 1 up, 1 down, so our amplitude is 1. And again, you can also do the maximum. Oops. You could do the max minus the min over 2, which, like the last problem, would be 1 minus -1 over 2, which is 2 halves, or 1. That's also something that you are allowed to do. So cosine can be graphed very easily if you know the corners of the unit circle and you understand how the values change as it approaches the max and min.